let's show off some things in the Raleigh Garden that are looking good right at the end of December. We've had some cold weather at this point, 15-degree Fahrenheit night a week or so ago. Somebody else told me it got down to 12 right here close by. They had measured 12, so maybe it was slightly colder than even 15. This bed I'm standing in here is mostly annuals during the summertime, so it's quite colorful. Right now there's just 5 main plants sitting in here and a little bit of a juga on the ground behind me, so it's a little bit of a stark kind of space. During the winter time, it's a big change. I'm gonna mulch pretty soon. I'm doing some stonework here, and then I'm gonna mulch right here. So it'll look a little better than it does now, but these shrubs are still needs to put on a little bit of growth so that in the winter time it's a little fuller. But this highlights arborvitae has really grown quite a bit in the 2 or 3 years since it was placed on this corner bed. It really has performed extremely well. This is in a lot of sun, and these Thuja occidentalis, these native eastern arborvitaes, are not the most drought tolerant or heat tolerant things in the world here in the south. They are in the northeast, but sun comes up over here and this thing's in the full sun for 10, 12, 13 hours a day. This bed has been amended for the entire history of this house, though. It's like 90, 80 years or something, 80, right at 80 years this house has been sitting here. And so it has a lot of access to water below it, and there's a brick driveway and other things here. So this plant has plenty of water, and it's not a plant we're ever going to need to water. And as we mulch it, it's continued to improve the soil, and it's just happy as it can be here. And it really is, it's quite a bit brighter during the growing season. So I mean, like full on yellow for March, April, May, June. And then the summer, it kind of slows down a bit. In the fall, it brightens back up. And then when it gets super cold in the winter, it gets a little bit of an amber color in the yellow. But man, highlights is the perfect name for it. It really shows off here in the winter garden. If you watch the channel for any length of time, you'll know I'll come right to another chartreuse colored plant when I'm showing things that I really enjoy here in the Raleigh Garden. This is a nightlight Chamaecyparis or false cypress. It's Chamaecyparis obtusa, which is Hinoki cypress. There's a dwarf Hinoki cypress here behind me. The dwarf Hinoki cypress get quite big too. It's just slow growing. This is another form, but there's been so many selections of Chamaecyparis obtusa or Hinoki cypress that have been made. They're kind of interesting that they're this ornamental plants here in our gardens, but if you went to Japan today and you were building a house or doing some sort of construction work, you can use lumber from Chamaecyparis obtusa or Hinoki cypress. The lumber's absolutely beautiful from these trees that grow probably like typical of most forests around the world that are used for timbering. They're probably less than 100 feet, but if they were allowed to for long enough, they'd get 150 feet tall and again, produce this beautiful lumber. But here in my garden, all of these selections for color and form and shape and garden habit. Nightlight Chamaecyparis looks completely different than a giant conifer forest that you would see in Japan. This one has just shines year round. Again, it's lost a little bit of that gold hue. This 12 to 15 degree Fahrenheit night definitely slowed that down. Right before that, it was a much brighter gold, but 10 months out of the year here in our Raleigh Garden, just a big time show off. Absolute full sun where it's sitting here, literally all day long. This thing is cooking out here in the front garden. We do on these, maybe a few of these conifers that are a little more sensitive to the heat in the south. We do have things planted fairly close to them. So there's annuals planted under this, some annual vinca during the summer that's keeping its roots a little cooler. Sidewalk here in front of it's keeping its roots a little cooler. That little native blueberry is keeping it a little cooler, but this thing is just a constant show off. These Hinoki cypress are super soft to the touch. So with that highlights arborvitae over there. So nice to have conifers that you can actually touch and not be prickly. I can reset prune these. These Hinokis are very good at kind of responding to pruning, and so I'll probably take as much as a foot off of this in the late winter, early spring, and let it flush back out about this size. If you like the Chamaecyparis obtusa story about it being lumber in Japan, I think Chamaecyparis piscifera is even more interesting. This one is saguaro cypress. This is another native to Japan, and again, another one that's, you know, typically probably what you'd see in Japan are 50 to 80 feet tall trees, but again, an old growth forest of these would be 150 feet probably or more. But though you talk about selecting for this, boulevard cypress is one of these, which is upright blue conifer. We have one on the other side of the driveway. This is baby blue ice, which is like a dwarf version of boulevard cypress. But gold mop cypress or gold thread cypresses are the same as well, Chamaecyparis piscifera. So you can see a little gold thread cypress versus, you know, this upright little blue conifer here. It's also soft to the touch, one of these things that most of these Chamaecyparis species have in common. But this one is just the coolest little plant. This one can stay in a container for a long time for you. It can go in the ground and be a little column. I've seen these sheared a lot and turned into just little perfect Christmas trees. Really great plant, but it's just a more compact, fuller version of boulevard cypress. Boulevard tends to, over time, lose its foliage down at the bottom and looks like kind of a telephone pole with a couple little blue limbs on it. And this one tends to be a little much fuller version of it. This is a plant we've been waiting to talk about for a little while. We've had them in the ground for a year and a half now, but really haven't talked about it because they just weren't available. But I think you're going to see more availability on this plant. We know soft caress Mahonia, which has a really super fine texture. We have one in the back garden in a container that I've shown off many times. This one's called silver caress. It's a slightly thicker texture foliage than soft caress, but it's still, you know, nice fine textured plant. Really going to be really great for people in part shade spaces where you're looking for texture. A lot of times in shade, we have less flowering and more texture and foliage color things that we can do in design, and these kind of fine textured shade plants are kind of perfect for that. These are in quite a bit of sun, actually. They're getting, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 hours of direct sun. But they could take less than that without any problem. Silver caress, because it has a kind of a silver hue to the top of the leaf. The bottom of the leaf is more of a, just kind of a light green color, but the top has this silver kind of hue to it. They've just finished flowering. I may get another flower spike here or there late in the winter. So these Mahonia will bloom typically on the shoulders of the winter. So right at the very beginning of the winter for us, and right at the very end, and I'll call it or at the end of the winter, we'll get a few more flowers as well. Really great looking plants. There's 3 planted in this cluster right here in front of the front, right in the front of the house. These will only get about 3 or 4 feet in height in time. Where most Mahonia species are super prickly, these are not. They look like they have a little bit of a thorn along the edge of the leaf, but you would have to work at it really to have this thing bite you at all. If it gets taller than I want, I can just go right up under one of these spikes and cut it right off, and it'll just flush back out from that. Really cool plant. And again, we've had these planted for about 18 months. We've done nothing to them. They're just a perfect little stand in here. And I think anybody who has a part shade or shade space that wants something that's evergreen, that flowers, that's good for pollinators, that's extremely low maintenance, that's that can take some dry shade, this is the perfect plant. This is silver caress Mahonia. The Marvel Mahonia still has a ton of flowers on it, and our soft caress Mahonia is actually here in a container, which again is slightly more soft textured than the silver caress Mahonia, but that thing, it's such a good plant. Both of them are really good plants, but I think that thing's gonna be sold. I think a lot of them are gonna be sold. They're just such good little, those 3 just got planted and they've just been perfect little evergreen plants sitting there without any problems. I can probably prune them once every 3rd or 4th year to kind of control the height on them, and that'll be it. Another show off here in the garden though is definitely the Florida Sunshine Alyssium. This is the time of year this thing really looks almost its best, is in December. Midsummer, it can get, the birds are back here. A lot of birds waiting for me to get out of here and stop talking. It almost looks the best in the winter time. It does get a little bit of, I've got this one in a lot of sun and so the winter sun on it can bleach it just a bit. During the summertime, this is actually a little more shade. In the wintertime, the sun is tracking this way, and it's in full sun probably from 8:30 in the morning until evening, and it does bleach it just a bit, but that white highlight on the top of it actually looks pretty good. And it's got these pinkish red stems on it that also highlight it. This one's been in the ground now 5 years, I guess, and it's leaning this way just a bit because, again, in the summer it would probably like just a hair more sun than it's getting. I've cut it. You know, if you looked at this plant 3 or 4 years ago, it was like 3 little stems sticking up. I just kept at it, cutting this thing. I just kept at it. I can see where I pruned it one time last year where it had 3 just random limbs on it. I just kept at it, and now I've produced this pretty full plant. I've got an osmanthus over here that we did the same thing with, where we just kept cutting it. And, you know, with some, you know, it's like 4 cuts, you know, no big deal in the late winter. And you get those spindly pieces off of it and then allow the rest of the plant to catch up. And look at here. This is an orange flowering osmanthus back here that was the exact same thing as that Elysium, where it just kept stretching. It had 3 just wispy limbs up here on it for the first couple of years. I just kept cutting them. And now it's a pretty full plant. And yesterday's video, as you're watching this, that went up was all about screening plants for narrow spaces. Here, you know, the path I'm standing on, there's only about 3 feet right here to the neighbor, to the edge of the property line. And this plant's just doing it. It's a perfect plant for this kind of space. It gets even narrower as it goes a little further down, and that's what that video yesterday is about, is selecting plants when you only have this much space, but you'd like a little bit of screening involved. If you haven't watched it, it's 1 hour and 22 minutes long, so it may take a little while to get through, but there's a lot of good plant selections or plant suggestions in that video. But I set up here for the Juliet Clayera, which just always looks good. It's variegated Clayera, has reddish stems on it, and this time of year in the winter it gets this little bit of a pinkish and red hue on the leaves. It looks so good. You know, I've said in the past, it looks like every leaf on this plant is painted, and it does today. This is a plant that I think we've pruned. You know, we've got, again, it's a little lower light than it would want, but you can deal with that. You know, you can't always deal with that. There is a spot where there's too much shade on it, but it's getting enough direct sun, especially during the summer. It tracks a little more over here, and, you know, gets enough that it keeps it full right down to the base. But if you're putting things and they're stretching a bit, if you just keep taking those top stretched pieces off, track them down in the plant a little bit. So I don't cut them off right at the top of the plant right here. I'll track these taller ones down in the plant just a bit, and then after I prune it, it won't look as if I pruned it. Right, it'll still look kind of natural looking on the top. If I cut it like this with a pair of hedge clippers and it looks like I pruned it, and it doesn't, to me, it doesn't look as good. But that little bit of pruning keeps that foliage, you know, full all the way to the bottom. We have a lot of Aucuba here in the Raleigh Garden, but this is one we added, I think, sometime early last year. This one's called Mellow Mushroom. It's a Plant Delights or Juniper Level Botanic Garden plant selection that they made, and Mellow Mushroom's the perfect name for it. It just grows as kind of a mushroom shape. Most Aucuba grow a little more upright and narrow ultimately. Maybe the plant becomes about as wide as tall in time, but this one grows as a little low dome like this. It's just the coolest little plant. Has that speckled foliage, you can see a little yellow spotting on it. But I just like the habit of this plant. The one that's over at the Juniper Level Botanic Garden is just a little perfect plant. There's one at the J.C. Ralston Arboretum that you can go and see as well. I don't know if Tony has any of these on the Plant Delights list right now, but if you're looking at ordering anything from them, this is just the coolest little Aucuba. And you know, it's evergreen. It does all the things you'd want it to do in a shady space. It'll take dry shade ultimately, but you might want to make sure you're keeping an eye on it for a little while. Don't just plant it and forget it because somebody says it takes dry shade. It can still take a year or two to make sure that it's established enough to be on its own and compete with other tree roots. I think this Indian hawthorn deserves to be talked about. This is part of the Clean Sweep series that the Southern Living Plant Collection has. This one's called Snowbank. It's white, gets covered up in white flowers in the spring. And filming this the day, Christmas Eve actually is when I'm filming this, and it just has such good green color on it. We went for a long time with a few Indian hawthorns out there that got terrible leaf spot issues and other issues, and they probably just needed to be not grown anymore for a while. Those varieties that we had just kind of, had disease-related issues. And so there are some folks out there that are just like, I don't want to look at another Indian hawthorn because they just had terrible problems with leaf spot-related issues. This thing is just as clean. This is why this series is called Clean Sweep. It just says no spotting on the leaves, whatsoever. None of that leaf spot that the other ones, the older varieties, got. I don't know if time caught up to them, or what happened there, or just growing them too close together in nursery settings started to set off the spreading of a disease. But man, they're back. These are really. This plant has been here maybe 3.5 years, 4 years now. It's about 4 to 4.5 feet wide, and it's about 2 feet in height, less than 2 feet in height, and it's never been pruned. That's how that thing grew. If you're looking for a little low doming evergreen plant for the full sun, this Clean Sweep Snowbank is definitely, should be on your list. I'm gonna wrap this What's Looking Good in the Garden video up with this Daphne-phyllum Mountain Dove. This is a very, very hard to grow plant. It has to be grafted. The one at the Ralston is probably 6 feet tall and 5 or 6 feet wide. I may be undersizing that actually. Beautiful variegated Daphne-phyllum. The reason I am wrapping this video up with this particular plant is this one was sent to us after Holly, after we had to put Holly to sleep earlier this year. And so this is, kind of a memorial plant for Holly here in the garden, and just kind of wrapping this year up and remembering, was a great adventure. This entire year was a really great adventure because we went to 34 states and 5 different countries. Your guys' participation in this channel, watching the videos, commenting on the videos, being subscribed to the channel, all of those things have opened up all those doors. But we had a heck of a first 4 to 5 months of the year, with Holly in decline that entire time. And she was such a big part of the channel and a big part of my life for so long. She was my nursery dog and my garden center dog, and the best. She was just an absolute best, animal. And so, when I look at this Daphne-phyllum, which somebody sent after that, and we got all of these beautiful paintings and just incredible things that people brought to the open garden, honoring Holly and her 1,000 videos or so that she was in. So that's why I wanted to wrap the video up with this and actually give you guys, a big thank you as well for, your participation. But I will say that about 90%, it's somewhere between 80 and 85% of the people who view the channel are not subscribed. So if you're not subscribed, if you would, I would definitely appreciate it. We would appreciate that, because again, that number opens doors. That's what it does. It opens doors to places for us to go and film and bring hopefully better content to you guys in the future. So thank you guys so much for following along with the channel. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all of those kinds of things. And another video soon.